regular series city council meeting for Monday, June 24th, 2019. At this time, can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Condit.
Here.
Councilmember DeRosset.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rhino.
Here.
Councilmember Klein.
Here.
And Mayor Vieira.
Here. Next, we will have the invocation by Jim Stoll from the Harvest Presbyterian, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Did I get it wrong again? Sorry.
My brother always got it wrong, and he grew up in the same family. So just think of Stockton with an L.
Okay.
But not Stockton. Anyway, thanks for allowing me to pray. Gracious and loving God, thank you for the many abundant blessings you give to us. Thank you for allowing us to live in this city with its wonderful opportunities and wonderful people. Thank you for allowing us to participate in representative government, both in electing our representatives and being able to give them feedback on issues that concern us. Even our criticisms are sometimes welcome, and this is not true in many places of the world. So with gratitude for our elected representatives and our wonderful city staff, we ask for your guidance during this meeting. May our ears be open to hear, especially different points of view. May our voices be civil, especially on those things that we are passionate about. And may you guide us to make wise and just decisions for the greater good. May what is said and what is done please you and benefit those who live and work and play in our beloved city of Ceres. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So it's Stockholm, correct?
Correct.
Got it. Okay, next we have a couple of presentations. The first one is a presentation by Jaspreet Singh regarding the Jakarta Movement, a community-based nonprofit organization.
Testing. Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be in this space. So my name is Jaspreet Singh. I am the 209 Regional Community Organizer of Jakarta Movement. And so before I go into the little bit of the work that the Jakarta Movement does and what exactly do I do here in the city of Ceres, I do want to say that this space is very special to me. The city is very special to me. I'm born and raised in Ceres, Ceres High School, class of 2011, go Bulldogs. So again, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this chance to be able to share the work that I now do. So the Jakarta Movement, a little bit about, so our mission is, so we are a youth leadership empowerment and organizing nonprofit organization who is committed to educational opportunities, immigration justice, and civic engagement. So a little history about how the Jakarta Movement got started. In the year 2000, it was basically just a conference in Fresno, and it was for collegiate students. We wanted to create a space basically for collegiate students to come together and just talk about different issues that are happening in their town, and then also in regionally in California. How does that relate back to Sikh Americans? And then in 2009, we became established as a nonprofit organization. And from then on, just with the growing love of this conference, we began branching out to different local colleges across California and into the local high schools in California. And so just now, bringing it back to Ceres, in 2017, we first started a program, Sikh Service and Honor Society, in Ceres High School and as well as Central Valley High School. And then in 2018, we had an inaugural year of SHSS at Central Valley High School, and shout out to my president of this past year who is now graduating and going to Santa Barbara next year. So a little bit about the work that we do. So what exactly do we do in these college chapters and in these high school chapters? So we do a lot of community service-based work, and that could include Know Your Neighbor events where we really, we go door to door and just introduce ourselves, who we are, who we are in this community, and who we are as Sikh Americans, facts about, Sikhs, the religion. And also, we'll do our meal sharing events where we basically, we make meals and we go out to, the downtown and, serve meals to the homeless community. And then also, so some of the learning opportunities that we bring to these students in this organization are basically some community forums. So I know in August, this past August, we held a town hall event where we got our students engaged there, and I'll go deeper into that later on. And then also we do a lot of different leadership opportunities. So each year we have our leadership retreats for all of our collegiate officers as well as our high school officers. This year we'll be hosting that at UOP in Stockton. And then as well as our conferences. So this past weekend we just got done with the LGAR, which is our collegiate conference, and today, this past weekend was our 20th year hosting that conference for our college students. And then we have our annual high school conference as well, called Nishan. So we also have that for all of our high school students. Each year, students all across California, they come together and we talk about different types of topics. Last year's theme was how redefining success. So I want to talk about a little bit about the civic engagement opportunities that we bring into the community. So healthy families. So like I mentioned, that this past August we did host a town hall event in Modesto, and this was to shed light on the couple of events that did happen in the community where a man in Turlock was beaten, sand was thrown into his eyes, and something was written across his truck, go back to your country, as well as an elderly man in Manteca who was beaten and robbed. And so we had a town hall event where we really talked about who we are and what kind of future as Sikh Americans do we want to create, and we had a lot of our youth speak there as well. And then other town hall events that, topics that we have are alcoholism and patriarchy, any type of violence that happens in the community. And I know recently I was a keynote speaker here where we did the Stand Up Against Bullying event. And then creating a space for welcoming schools. So currently in Fresno Unified and Central Unified, we have Punjabi language programs there currently, which really just makes it a more inclusive environment for everybody. Now, this is something that I really, really want to create in Series Unified. Being that Punjabi is the third most spoken language here, I would love to see Punjabi being a language option, as well as Spanish, as well as, I know when I was in high school we had German. So really want to create that as well in our local high schools here. And then greater engagement in the community. So like I mentioned before, just those Sikh American events that we do, as well as this past fall was very heavy on voter registration. So locally here, we got over 350 new voter registered. And then we also work a lot on policy engagement and advocacy. So Assembly Bill 1531 was passed for greater language access. So what that bill did was really recognize Punjabi as one of the most spoken languages in California. Currently, Punjabi is the 11th most spoken language in California. It is third most spoken language in the Central Valley. So this ranges from Bakersfield all the way throughout Yuba City. So now with that, we are heavily now going to be involved in Census 2020. And that is something that I'm looking for support from all of you, city council members. I would love to, meet individually with you all and really discuss what resolutions we could pass in order to ensure that everybody in series is being counted. Jakarta Movement is one of the subcontractees. We were given funding from the state of California to be doing this work. And I really do want to emphasize that it's not just about Punjabi people being counted. We are really here, want to work towards making sure that all communities are being counted, all the hard-to-reach communities are being counted. That way we do have all the resources that we need in our city. So that is my contact information. Do we have any questions at all? Nandeep Singh, our executive director, couldn't make it out here today, so that's who he is. And then again, my name Jaspreet Kaur.
Questions? Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next presentation we have is DW61 Foundation donation to the series Police Explorers, made possible by the funds raised at the annual Dennis Wallace Memorial Golf Tournament.
Good evening. My name is Dave Wallace, and I'm joined here with my sister-in-law Mercedes, Andrea Jones, and our honorary chairperson, my mother Nan. We're board members of the DW61 Foundation and also committee members on the golf tournament committee. As most people know, that my brother Mercedes' husband Dennis was tragically killed 2.5 years ago in East County. But a group of people got together after Dennis was killed, and we did not want that to be the lasting legacy or the last memory. And we formed a golf tournament committee, and we are blessed that this August 19th, we will be having our 3rd annual golf tournament. All the funds from the golf tournament in Dennis's memory are given to children's programs in the greater Stanislaus area. And we have been very fortunate this year that we passed the $50,000 mark in donations given out to various programs. Recently at our last meeting, we chose to give funds towards all of the Police Explorer programs in Stanislaus County and a couple other just outside the county. And we are here today to donate a $500 check to the Ceres Police Explorer Post in memory of Deputy Sheriff Dennis Wallace.
Thank you.
We have a little, well, we have a bigger check and then the real check, if you want. But if we can take a photo and I understand, I just want to make congratulations. I understand that the chief isn't here because special award taking place back east and SRO of the year. That is awesome. And that really makes it even more special because Dennis was very involved in the youth programs as a school resource officer for approximately 10 years. And I know he'd be smiling about that, so that's really cool. Just step back and take a photo. Sure. Is that okay?
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to citizens' communications to the council on matters not included on the agenda. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in City Council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the City Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Citizens are entitled to address the City Council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. At this time, is there anyone that would like to address the council on a non-agenda item? If so, please come forth and state your name for the record. Oh.
Uniquely serious. A lot of stuff we see on television and newspapers and stuff, and it seems like in the last year or so there's been some stuff about what a lot of people don't know, and I just learned about a year ago, ransomware, where they're attacking individual cities. I was just kind of wondering, does the city of Ceres have anything in place so we can be protected by that?
Mr. Wells?
Obviously, that's a pretty significant IT threat, but yes, our IT department is aware of that, and we are working on putting the appropriate safety measures in place. It's an ongoing process.
Do you know anything about these systems? Do they really protect them?
Absolutely. Again, it's only as strong as the individual users as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Lee Brandt series. I just kind of wanted to give you a heads up. I got an email from the Lions Club about Shep, and there's 3 guys right there that are also Lions, and they're going to know more information than I do. But I know Shep is doing okay. He's in a retirement home in Riverbank. Yeah, and there's phone numbers, so if anybody wants the phone number, they can contact me, and I'll share it with them. But Shep's doing okay, you know. I know we've all been a little concerned about him, you know, but anyway, okay.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to appointments to boards and commissions. We have one this evening. Appointments to the Measure H Citizens Oversight Committee for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2022. Mr. Wells?
Thank you, Mayor. As indicated in the staff report, the Measure H Oversight Committee currently has 3 vacancies as of June 30th. One of the individuals that's currently sitting on the committee expressed interest to reserve. Under the bylaws, he's able to serve another 3-year terms, but it is subject to council approval. In addition to additional spots are available. And at the dais, the council has the applications that have been received, and it is the council's discretion of the appointment process and what you'd like to do to either appoint or continue looking for additional folks and handle it any way you're appropriate. So I'll turn it back to you for your direction.
Okay, what's the will of the council? Do we want to hear from the individuals? Do we want to make an appointment? Go ahead.
I actually would have a question for one of the applicants.
Okay.
I think there's one applicant not here.
I think we
Yeah.
only have one applicant.
But
No, there's 2. I
there's
see.
2. Yeah, Mr. Valencia is the recurring who's not able to make
Right.
this evening.
Do we want the 2 that are here to come up and say a little bit about this? Because I don't know which one you want to ask a question. Is it the one here, or do you know?
No, it's Mr. Sasser.
Okay.
I don't have any questions for Mr. Cerny, but because I know he's also been on the Measure H committee before.
Okay.
But I don't know if anyone else has questions.
Councilmember Condit, did you want to?
No, I have no problems recommending all 3.
Okay.
Say that.
Okay, so at this point, do you want me to would you like him to come forward?
Yes,
Just the one candidate or both?
just Mr. Sasser.
Okay. Mr. Sasser, could you come forward, please?
Good evening.
Hi. I was, and I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I was a little concerned when I read a social media post by you about you enjoy mortar fireworks, and I don't know if that was just, you were just kind of joking around, or if you really are okay with illegal fireworks being shot off in series.
I don't like seeing them shot off in series. I was just joking around on a post.
Okay. That was my concern was, appointing you to an oversight committee made up of police and fire if that was truly the way that you felt. But I can understand kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I do like watching them at the legal fireworks.
Oh,
when they shoot
sure,
them.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a discussion or motion. Or before I do that, I'll open it up to public. If anyone has had a chance to read this and would like to speak now, would be a time. Okay. Hearing none or seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council for discussion or direction.
I'd move to approve to appoint all three applicants to the Measure H committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit.
Aye.
Councilmember DeRosset.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. We will move on to, welcome aboard, by the way. Someone will, I'm sure will get in contact with you as far as the timing of everything. And so now we will move to conflict of interest declaration. Is there anyone on the council that would like to declare a conflict of interest on any of the consent calendar, unfinished business, new business, or public hearing items? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or the public for special consideration. Otherwise, recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. At this time, is there anyone on the council that would like a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion?
Item number 9.
Anyone else? All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to have a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion other than item number 9? Okay, I will bring it back to the council for direction on discussion on the first 8 items.
Move to approve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC, 6, 7, and 8. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit.
Aye.
Councilmember DeRosset.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 9, resolution number 2019-72, approving a 1-year extension for professional redevelopment and economic development consulting services to Stephen L. Hallam and authorize the city manager to execute the amendment number 4 for these services. Councilmember Condit?
Sure. Ms. Dean, do we have any other part-time positions that make up to $85,000 a year, roughly?
I would have to look in the in our contracts. I didn't bring that with me tonight. I do know that we have an engineering position that does make more than that when they're working on the projects doing the inspections. But I don't have that information right now.
Okay. Would you roughly remember how many hours that engineer is committed to working per week?
No, not right off the top of my head, no.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Do you recall how much Mr. Hallam made when he was full-time?
I believe that he was in the same range as the deputy finance director, so that position, I believe, was around $106,000 a year plus benefits.
106. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this item?
John Warren, City of Ceres. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
$85,000 a year equates to about $170,000 a year full-time position, plus benefits, which would crowd up probably around the $200,000 a year mark. Is that accurate?
Probably fair,
Close.
yeah.
Fully burdened of that job description is $175,000. Fully burdened.
Okay. So I'm Pretty close.
You're close. You're in the ballpark.
Now, my question is, in the job duties, the person in this position is supposed to bring businesses into the city, keep businesses that are in the city from going elsewhere, and helping rescue fledgling businesses that are not doing successful. So in this last year, it seems like there's more businesses leaving our community than there are businesses coming into the community. Am I not correct? From what I read in the newspapers and hear discussions in the community. I don't have a lot of accurate figures.
Well, and then this is just kind of a sidebar. It's kind of hard to say that because I can speak to one business that's actually expanding, and they're like in our top 3 revenue generators, but there's probably 3 or 4 other ones that are leaving that don't generate much for the city. So it's kind of it's not as easy as just saying across the board, but yeah, that you described what the goal is for an economic development person.
Mr. Mayor, what business is expanding currently?
Kingspan.
Kingspan, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, they'll be adding, I think it is, how many new jobs? It's about 70 maybe?
75 was their initial estimate, and upwards of more than that. And one of the best things about Kingspan is they are both a jobs generator as well as a sales tax generator.
And they're our number 2 or 3?
They're in the top 10.
Okay.
Sales tax.
So, Councilmember Klein?
Well, and I'd like to comment on that too, because there's some things that are out of our control, like Kmart closing, their parent company. You know, Sears decided they were going to do some restructuring. They closed. They even shut down the store in Modesto in the mall. Rancho San Miguel, their parent company, PAQ Group, which also owns a bunch of, Food for Less stores on top of that. When they start doing a restructuring and trying to budget for their fiscal year, those are many things that we have out of our control. We can probably help out or look at helping out smaller independent type businesses. But when you have a large parent company that is in multiple locations out of our jurisdiction, that is things that are way out of our control that we can't control of, their revenue and what they're expected or what they deem as a good profit for them. So, the two businesses on Hatch Road are a great loss, but I don't believe there's really anything we could do to change the concept or, the direction that they decide to go.
Okay, I can understand that, especially in light of the Kmart situation with Sears, the parent company, and so forth. But my kind of concern in this particular instance, are we really receiving the most that we can for the investment that we're putting out? When you look at the $175,000 a year salary, which is way up there for our city, are we getting the most that we can from the money that we're investing? Maybe we could rebudget or renegotiate the salary, not spend as much money, but still receive the same services.
I think the 175 is if we had him full-time.
Full-time.
But he's not full-time.
Yeah.
So.
He's not an employee.
When he was full-time,
it's not a salary.
He received $106,000.
Right.
So if you cut that in half, that's like $53,000, not $85,000.
Again, it's not $85,000. It's a not-to-exceed contract. His hourly rate as a contract, he's not an employee. He's an independent contract. Is $85 per hour.
Okay.
That's all we pay. There's no benefits associated with it. It's a contract.
Do we know how much he made last year?
$55,362.50 is the estimated for fiscal year 18-19, $59,000 for 17-18, $62,000 for 16-17, and $78,000 for the previous year. Average is $64,000 per year for the past 4 years.
So last year was 78.
Last year, I'm assuming you mean fiscal year 18-19.
Yeah.
The year ending next week. That is estimated to be $55,362.
Okay.
So it's not 85. It's based on actuals.
that was going to be my question, is how much was the salary for last year? You know,
Again, it's not salary. The contracted amount based it was $55,000 for fiscal year.
How much did the city spend? In other words, that's budgeted item, correct, in our budget?
It's budgeted at 85, but the actual is expected to finish around 55,000.
Okay.
How much of that, Mr. Wells, is paid by the state?
It's all paid out of the RDA. Yeah, the whole budget for this line item is not general fund. This is an RDA dissolution funded program.
Okay, I think you've answered my questions and my concerns. I appreciate allowing me to speak.
I mean, I think I can kind of speak for this group. We ultimately want to get to a full-time position there as opposed to part-time, but budget-wise, it's been a little bit of a challenge for us. That's why we're not a full-time.
Well, that's when I was looking at full-time versus half-time, but the way the salary structures, that's pretty close to being what it is, so that answers the question. Thank you.
Councilman Moreno?
I think that given we don't have the funds to hire someone full-time, that we should continue with Mr. Hallam in his part-time capacity, because over the years, when I worked here as a staff person, I saw a few economic development people come and go, and I have to say, as a part-time employee of the city, that I believe he does an excellent job. I mean, like I said, I've seen some full-time employees we had that did not do as much as he does.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or direction. Councilmember Condit?
Sure, I was just curious, are there any other cities in Stanislaus County that have a position like this? Or that we know of?
That contracts for economic development services?
Yes.
As opposed to full-time or just?
Well, both. Full-time, I believe Modesto is the only one that has a full-time economic development team.
Manteca does, I know that.
Oh, man,
Turlock
not in
used to.
Stanislaus.
Oh, you?
Turlock used to. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, I haven't done any research.
Okay.
With
I
your,
don't
you
Okay.
probably have a better feel for it.
The
than
bigger
I would.
cities tend to because they can afford it.
Yeah.
You know, but I only know about Manteca because I sat on an interview panel with someone that was interviewing for an economic person from Merced County. So.
When are we considering going a full-time position? When is that coming up?
My hope would be for next fiscal year, but obviously it's budget driven. In a perfect world, we'd be able to take what we have allocated to this position, match it with general fund, and have kind of an equal 75,000 per se through this funding source, and another 75 to 100 out of the general fund, depending on final numbers, and be able to fund that full-time position for fiscal year 2021 would be our goal.
Okay, and other than Kingspan, what other businesses would we lay credit to Mr. Hallam's work?
Well, probably the one that I'm most familiar with, it was probably the most successful, was the Ross. You know, it's not
Ross.
as recent. Ross was
Okay.
Mr. Hallam's direct handiwork of reaching out to that business directly, and it resulted in them occupying a business that has now jumped up in our top 25 for sales tax. It's been a very successful store. So, I mean, there's a long list in his economic development reports on a monthly basis. That's, again, something he's put together. It lists all those stores that are businesses that are opening on a monthly basis, and you know, they may not get the fanfare that a big negative store may have, like a Kmart or a Rancho San Miguel, but those little businesses are important. So,
Sure.
you know, I can't recite those from memory, but there's a long list.
And in those monthly reports, Mr. Hallam's required to be here?
We don't, our arrangement with him, we don't require him to be on a monthly basis, but if that's something the council would like to do, he and I work on the schedule. We communicate on a regular basis, at least a few times a week, based on his workload and knowing where that's going. He tries to be here once a month, just depending on his own schedule. And again, he's not an employee, he's a contract, so we can't dictate his schedule under state law. So we try to make it work, and he's generally here for those meetings.
I'd just like to say, Steve, just real quick, thanks. You know, at the very beginning, I was kind of skeptical that we were going to do this contract thing out, and I had these same questions about a year ago, or maybe a little bit more, in regards to the job that you're doing. You know, I think this position next year is going to be really big, and I know that you probably won't be with us next year if we hire for full-time, because you've been doing this for quite a long time. But we got a lot of projects coming up with the Southgate over off Mitchell and Service, and our downtown. If you guys have driven down our downtown, I know you've had extensive work down there. and you see what it looks like and the things that seem to be coming in, my hat goes off to you, and I'm for this contract. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the resolution number 2019-72 to adopt.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Nay.
Councilmember DeRossett?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, we'll move to unfinished business. We have one item, resolution number 2019-73, approving the Adopt a Park program guidelines.
City Council, tonight we bring this back with some changes that were requested by council members for your final approval tonight. Some minor changes were changed was instead of adopting for a year, they could do a 6-month period for 6 cleanups. And the additional major change, I said minor a second ago, was a yard sign being added for the one-time Good Neighbor program. Moving forward, if this is adopted tonight and approved, is we're going to definitely get a press release out and let the community know this is available. We're going to develop a web page for the program and have the information up. All this is waiting. Pretty much the web page is ready to roll, just getting the guidelines put up. And last is meet with community members and send out emails to get involvement into this program if they're interested.
Okay. Questions?
Are you good with it?
I looked at it and he got all of my concerns, so very good, thank you.
Okay, any other comments before I open it up to the public? All right, is there anyone on the audience that would like to speak on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or direction.
Move to adopt resolution number 2019-73.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Aye.
Councilmember DeRossett?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business. We have one item, resolution number 2019-74, authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding, MOU, for service between the city of Modesto and the Salida Fire Protection District for fire department training services.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to discuss with you this opportunity for a training partnership with the Modesto Fire Department and the Salida Fire Protection District. I know you've had an opportunity to review the staff report. I just wanted to hit a few highlights before we discuss any further. Training is the backbone of a fire department. It produces a well-prepared force that through repetition increases the speed of an operation and enhances proper execution while reducing injuries. A firefighter who arrives at an emergency unprepared can be faced with life and death situations and will find him or herself unprepared and can face, him or herself under extreme stress to perform his or her duties. Training benefits everyone: the fire department, the company officer, the fire department, and most importantly, the citizens that we serve. When I first came to the Ceres Fire Department, one of the highest priorities by most of the members that I talked to was that we needed to improve our training program. I solicited some of our members of what ideas they had for our training program, and I also talked to some of my fellow fire chiefs. And upon some of these conversations that I had with these fire chiefs, we came up with the idea of a partnership because we were all kind of in the same boat. Currently, the way we've done our training program is we've had an online training officer who's a shift captain that serves as our training officer. Some of the challenges, some of the challenges of being a shift training officer is that when you're here with our schedule 4896, and then you go home. If you take a vacation, you could be gone for 10 days or more. So consistency with the program is really difficult. Also, being able to focus solely on training is also difficult, along with doing your regular job duties and also responding to emergency calls. So the concept we came up with was a partnership of sharing our resources.
we are in need of a full-time training officer dedicated solely to training. And unfortunately, within our means, we haven't been able to dedicate a person 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, for a training program. The city of Modesto has a fully staffed training program, and they're in need of a facility to house their training officers. Well, we happen to have a facility at Station 17 that's currently sitting vacant, and we have used it for years as our training facility. It still needs to have some more work done out there, but we have several props, and it's a good location to conduct training. So fast forwarding to now, we've worked the last few months on developing this training program where the city of Modesto would supply us with training officers. The Salida Fire Protection District would supply us with a part-time training officers. So we'd have full-time staff dedicated to the training program. The city of Ceres would provide the facility, and we'd maintain the facility and pay for the utilities. We'd also provide some part-time administrative support with our fire secretary, and the Modesto Fire Department would also provide some administrative support with their part-time secretary. They would also be, overall, they would be in charge of the training program administratively. So some advantages of this program. First and foremost, as I stated, we'd have full-time training officers dedicated solely and focused solely on training of our personnel. We'd have consistent training on all 3 shifts. This is always a challenge with a shift training officer. He or she is not here to provide that training on a daily basis, so we get consistent training, and it's the same training. Training with our regional partners on a routine basis improves our fireground operations and overall firefighter safety. Multi-company drills and the necessary scheduling for these drills. So when you get multiple companies together from multiple agencies, you need to schedule that. And we need to ensure while they're at that training that our jurisdictions are being covered appropriately. Again, they would be the administrators of the program. They'd track our training hours, our certifications, our continuing education. They would assist us with the administration of our JAC program and ensure our hours are being reported appropriately. And again, the most important part is the overall safety of our employees, and most importantly, by providing a high-level training program, we're going to increase the safety of our citizens by us executing our job in a more proficient manner. And some of the things that these other departments are going to bring, they're offering to bring their training props to our site, which includes containers where we can rearrange the containers, set them up differently, build some different props, maybe like a city street with some residential structures, some commercial structures, and we could get that all set up. We're working on developing a site master plan and making improvements to the facility in the future. Also, other city departments within the city of Ceres would be more than welcome to use the facility because it is a city of Ceres facility. So such as PD could go out and do some SWAT training or other training out there. We have forcible entry props that would be advantageous to the PD department. So if you have any questions, I'd like to answer them.
Councilmember Klein?
You know, after reading the staff report and being aware that, I've been to the Ceres Fire Department offered Fire Ops 101 and twice, and I've been a participant in it both times. Going to the Modesto facility, they have a multiple structured facility. What kind of props will you have, knowing that Modesto and Salida has multiple stories? Are we planning anything out there for multiple story, for entry, for rescue, or anything like that at Station 3?
Yes, that's one of our ideas, is possibly a 3-story prop. We still need to plan that out and come up with a master plan for that. In our overall scheme of what we've talked about, we still plan on utilizing the Regional Fire Training Center for those props that are like permanent props, like the 6-story training prop that's out there, the rescue systems props that are out there. And it's just our program would be headquartered out of Station 17. We'd utilize it as much as possible, but we would also be utilizing the Regional Fire Training Center also.
Well, I can say, taking Fire Ops 101 twice, that I truly support this, and I think for our department it's a win-win. where we don't have to travel out of our jurisdiction to get the training. It's coming to us. So I truly can support this.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
In the staff report under fiscal impacts, I don't see any mention of overtime. Will there be any increase in overtime with this?
No, and actually, I'm hoping there will be a decrease from the past. What we've had to do in the past, we've had to bring in off-duty trainers to train the other shifts. So by having the training staff out there Monday through Friday, we can get all the shifts without having to bring additional training officers in off-duty.
And then under the draft memorandum of understanding on the first page under training division, it says Modesto shall provide administrative oversight to the division and dedicate a minimum of 2 40-hour personnel. Yet in the staff report, it says it will be 2 40-hour training officers at 2. It will be training officers instead of just personnel. Can we be specific about that?
Yeah, I'll just add too that the agreement is a draft. I mean, it's not in a final form, and there are a few changes that we need to make both internally as well as with our partners. So if council's uncomfortable, there's a few cleanup, actually quite a few cleanup languages, but we wanted to get it in front of you as soon as we possibly could before we move forward, because Modesto's needing to make this move relatively quickly. So as long as we get agreement on the overall concept, we can, if council is not comfortable with us finalizing it, we can bring it back for a final, but we just need that overall, because there are a number of those little cleanup items that we still
Okay,
need
well,
to
that's
address.
why I'm bringing it up, because I'm uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, and so that's
Okay.
where, again, we wanted to get this in front of you to make sure before we go any further, council's comfortable with the concept and the language we can clean up, because there are a number of things that need to be a little tighter.
Okay, but again, I'm bringing up the language that is a concern to me.
Absolutely.
Salida shall provide one person, yet in the staff report it says a admin captain. So it would be an admin captain.
Yeah,
It won't be
we can clean that up in the agreement, so it's specific to what they're committing to.
Okay. And then if we go to the training division, section C, admin assistant, the administrative assistant may be assigned to other duties as assigned to assist in the administrative support of Modesto. Is that, who's?
That would be theirs, right? We need to clarify that. That it's Modesto's administrative assistant, and we clarify
Okay.
the language with
And then
Series Modesto.
number 2, Series will provide part-time administrative support to the training division from the fire secretary. Well, I know that part of your push to get a full-time secretary for fire was that they would be, they're still needed in the fire division for 50% of the time, but then 50% of the time they would be support to the training division. So by it just saying part-time administrative support, I think it needs to be spelled out that it will not be more than 20 hours per week, because it was really your push that fire needed somebody part-time.
If you'd like,
I know what you're saying, but
the administration of that person falls under the chief, but if you'd like that to be in the agreement, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
since that
This
was
is the
a
agreement
big,
that's, connecting us with Modesto and Salida, but if that's the council's direction, of course.
well, it was your big push for the full-time secretary was that fire needed somebody 50%. And that's why I'd like to see that in there.
Okay. No problem. That's easy.
And then if we go to Exhibit A, under series contributions, it's at the very bottom, it says subject matter experts and state certified instructors. Is that something that, it's under series contributions, so where will the money come to pay for those individuals? Or do we have those individuals on staff that are considered state certified?
Correct.
So we won't have to pay anyone on the outside to come in and do that?
Correct.
Yeah, many of our staff already have subject matter expertise, and so they're leading a lot of this training today, but they would be able to come under this program and help provide their expertise.
Okay, under Modesto contributions, training staff, it says a minimum of 2 and 1 part-time administrative position. I'd like that to say it's a minimum of 2 40-hour training officers. And then under Modesto contributions, the last line, it's training equipment, supplies management, Series and Modesto funded. What is that cost? Because I thought that what are the supplies management and how is Series involved in that funded?
It's already in our budget for training supplies, so we do ventilation training. We use our plywood on props, so we use plywood, sheetrock, different things like that.
But it's
for
in the
training
adopted budget for
Yes,
this coming
correct.
year? Okay. And then under Salida contributions, training staff, 1 person, it should be 1 admin captain assigned to a minimum of 24 hours per week. And those are my suggestions or my concerns.
On the last one for Salida, that may fluctuate which person actually does the committed time to the training division. It could be the fire chief, or it could be his administrative captain.
We could change the language to say, at a minimum rank of administrative captain, something like that.
That would be good. Thank you. That's it.
Any other comments? At this time, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or direction.
Move to adopt resolution number 2019-74 with the changes that Councilman Rhino made.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Aye.
Councilmember DeRossett?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to the public hearing. We have one item, public hearing to consider resolution number 2019-75, establishing the annual assessment levy for the 2019-2020 fiscal year on the businesses in the downtown area defined in the Series Downtown Revitalization Area Board, CDRAB, annual report for the activities and programs of the Series Downtown Revitalization Area Board for fiscal year 2019-2020. Mr. Hallam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The item before you this evening is a request to consider assessing a levy on all businesses downtown within the Series Downtown Revitalization Area for this next fiscal year, 2019-20. The revitalization area was formed in 1989 for the purposes of generating revenue to assist in the maintenance, upkeep, and revitalization efforts downtown. Since its origin in '89, the city has annually levied an assessment on all businesses within the boundaries, and the funds raised from this annual assessment are restricted by law for their purpose and must be used to pay for projects and activities that promote and positively contribute to the aesthetics of downtown. The proposed levy has not changed since 1989 when it was first established. Generally assesses a $10 to $25 per month assessment on all businesses based on gross receipts. For this next fiscal year, the assessment is expected to raise approximately $13,500 for district activities. This is slightly increased from over the last 2 years as a few more businesses are opening downtown, which is a healthy sign. As identified in the annual report for fiscal year 2019, which that report was endorsed by the CDRA board on May 20th and approved by the City Council earlier this evening. These funds, including some reserve funds, will pay for electricity for the downtown streetlights, rotation of seasonal overhead banners, continued funding for a matching grant element for the design assistance component of the downtown facade improvement program, as well as 2 planned projects consisting of a wayfinding sign program and a look at possible downtown development incentive program that the board has asked about. In addition, there was a significant increase this year in landscape maintenance services for this next fiscal year because the last 18 months we've benefited from the contractor of the 4th Street improvements, picking those up as part of the negotiated contract. The city assumes liability or maintenance liability after July, so we've budgeted $15,000 this year for landscape maintenance. Once again, staff is not proposing any increase in the annual rate of assessment for fiscal year 2019-20. Tonight, all business owners in the CDRA were mailed notices. There was a notice of public hearing posted in the Series Courier as well. The council is asked tonight to take 2 actions. First, open the public hearing for the purpose of taking testimony by anyone who wishes to speak on this subject. And second, consider staff recommendation to adopt the proposed resolution to establish and assess a levy on all businesses located in the Ceres downtown revitalization area for fiscal year 2019-20. Can I answer any questions?
Is there anyone on the council that has any questions? With that, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for further discussion or adoption.
Move to adopt Resolution 2019-75.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Condit?
Aye.
Councilmember DeRossett?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
And Mayor Vieira.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we're moving to the discussion items. We have one item, the municipal code update. Mr. Wells?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This evening, we're discussing the municipal code update. We've started this process about a year ago. Other workflow issues have complicated getting here sooner, but per the goal-setting session that we had back in February, it is my pleasure to kind of present the outline, get your direction that the schedule is appropriate and fitting for kind of the council's appetite for biting off the update of this tiny little document. So this is the full municipal code in a hard copy version. Last time this was printed in a hard copy was in 2013. So got 6 years worth of things that have been updated, and it was not a comprehensive update at that point. It was just a comprehensive codification, meaning it was just the update of all the ordinances and rules, called laws, that we'd put into place up until that point. So what we are endeavoring to do is to take this document and update it. It goes all the way back to the original series ordinances, as far back as our original 100 years. So tonight we'll talk about the process on how we're going to try to tackle this beast, because as you might suspect, there's hundreds of pages in here, and trying to tackle it all at once is a pretty monumental task. So the municipal code has this set of documents broken up into these chapters that are listed here. I won't bore you with the details. You've all seen this in the staff report, but the chapters, grouping of information, as we tried to break this down and figure out the best way to go about updating the municipal code, trying to find a balance between kind of an orderly process of going right through it from the beginning to the end. It didn't make as much sense when you start looking at how certain chapters are interrelated. For example, Code Enforcement, Chapter 19, its relationship to Chapter 9 with nuisance, also with vehicle abatement that covers in Chapter 10. So we looked at those opportunities and kind of said, okay, how can we group these together, and also how can we put them in kind of bite-sized chunks in terms of the council's appetite as well as the community's appetite for reviewing this information, because like I said, it could be pretty overwhelming. So what we tried to do with this grouping approach was to put chapters together that had kind of an overall page count, somewhere around the 250 pages per se. They're not full pages, so not 8.5 by 11, but they're pretty darn close. But trying to get those groupings together. So we came up with this grouping, and we're open to any suggestions the council may like to change, adjust, and tweak the schedule. But we came up with that grouping that seemed logical, at least from our perspective. And then presented that. Once we got that grouping of 5 to try to decide that was the appropriate level, we wanted to make sure council was comfortable with that level of review. And for basically one council meeting a month, we'll be kind of diving into reviewing a pretty good chunk of a agenda package that's 250 or so pages. So with that grouping, we came up with a proposed schedule. So the schedule on top is the schedule that was presented in the staff report starting this process. And so the base assumption, based on the goal-setting meeting, was we would start with a council discussion. And that discussion item would have the municipal code as it exists today in a clean version, and then also a red line version of what our city attorney has recommended to change to update to current law and a number of those type of cleanup items. And then anything staff recommends us addressed, that would be at the discussion item first. City council discussion item, you provide us direction, and then it would move through the public hearing process for formal adoption. So there's basically a 3-step process: a discussion item, then a hearing, a second reading, and then an effective date. So each of these groups were built on a schedule following that process, then tried to manage it so that we didn't have too many of these meetings where we have this real heavy lift, kind of back-to-back meetings. But if council is wanting to expedite and go a little faster, we can do that. But we put this schedule together to start with there on top as presented starting on July 22nd. After meeting with council members individually, there's potential for a couple council members to not be here on July 22nd. And for as important as this process is, we came up with another schedule today to kind of slide that back and basically moved everything down one meeting to the August 12th meeting, which we would recommend based on how important this is to the overall organization and for city governance. We think it's best to make sure we have all council members in attendance on that first meeting.
Councilmember Klein, I know you had.
Looking at your group chapters, where's 7, 11, and 14?
Those don't exist. They're blank.
They're blank?
Correct.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
I think one of your questions too was if you wanted us to agree on one date for the effective date.
Yeah, that was next. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect segue. Yeah. So the effective date, so general, public hearing, second reading that's on a consent item, and then any ordinance has a 30-day period before it's an effective. That would be the standard default. However, for codification purposes, that could be delayed. You could set a date further out than 30 days that would help in the overall processing of producing another document like this, and then also in updating that information to the website. So you don't necessarily have to make that decision this evening. We can kind of go on a section-by-section basis, and there may be a couple chapters that are more important than others. For example, Chapter 5 relative to the Finance Department with the collection and a lot of those things that we have to update relative to new state law that's coming into place by January 1. That one may need to be done so that it's effective by January 1st. So a couple of those things will be kind of adopting as we go through the process, but looking for that overall direction, we could pick a date that's, say, in March and say we want to have everything to be adopted and effective on March 15th or April 1st or something like that.
Well, I think if we're going to go through this, that when we've had our public hearing and we make our decision on the different groups, that we should make it effective after the second reading. Is it 30 days after the second reading?
That's correct. Rather
than wait and group them all together. I would just rather do them by a group, like you have it stated here, and then do the effective date for each group rather than wait and do it as a whole.
Yeah, that's completely, and you don't have to finalize that decision today. We can bring the first grouping through and you can make that determination on that effective date. We'll assume, based on the rest of the council's direction, that you want it to be effective as soon as possible, but you can always change that date as you go through the process.
Any other comments? Okay, keep going.
That's really all that we're looking for. One, that level of activity and council's willing to go with that schedule, looking for your direction on those two schedules for the grouping, and I think I've heard the effective date, looking at the head nods, but really just looking for direction on the process.
So we're looking at the first discussion at August the 12th?
Correct.
And if after that first grouping, we're going to shoot for 250 to 300 pages, but then if we find that's too overwhelming for,
onerous?
I mean, it might be.
Yeah, it probably will be.
If it is, then at that point, we can scale it back. Okay.
Yeah, I would suspect after that, September 9th hearing, we'll have a better idea, because that'll be kind of both rounds, right? A discussion and the actual presentation. That would be kind of the appropriate time to say, okay, we're teed up for the next one coming on September 23rd. Is that too much, or do you want to hold back?
Well, especially if we don't get our agenda till the Thursday before the meeting. I mean, whatever else is on the agenda, and then you have this additional information that you need to read, that might be a lot for the people who work.
Because I guess I'll ask the question, does anyone have an objection to what's being presented with the timeline and how the staff is proposing to tackle this project?
No.
I don't.
No. Okay. So at this time, I'll open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this item? Okay, hearing none, I'll bring it back to the council for either further discussion or agreement on direction. I mean, we don't have to take any formal motion, and I think the feedback has been, we're okay with the timeline, so. Okay, with that, we will move on to council member referrals. Is there anyone on the council that would like to have an item placed on a future agenda?
Yes. I would like the council to give direction to the city manager to consider consideration of drafting a resolution that would officially rename the Ceres Museum in honor of Phil and Donna Reiners.
Phil and Donna, who? I'm sorry.
Reiners.
Grinders.
Okay. Okay, is that okay with, you okay with that?
Well, he can bring it forward. He doesn't need our okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
They live on Acorn.
Okay, so Mr. Wells, can you put that on?
We'll do some research and get that
Okay.
process started.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
I would like something placed on the closed session, a follow-up from our closed session of May the 13th regarding public employee performance evaluation, if the city attorney can give us an update then. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, this time we'll move to reports. I have nothing to report. Well, I might as well let everyone know an update on the surface water project. A lot of activity has taken place. In fact, what I'll do is maybe Mr. Wells, you might be able to email out the YouTube link, or if you didn't get it, I have it,
Yeah.
where you can go and actually see the drone video of the construction of the infiltration gallery and the pipeline. It's actually pretty amazing when you see the freezing curtain holding the water back from the river as the construction activity is occurring. We are hopefully very close to executing a contract with a design build company and seeing that project move forward. So, and then I was contacted, Congressman Harder contacted me last, was it Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, to let us know that he was able to secure $750,000, and although he said he wished it was more, he indicated it was a first step toward getting us some funding, some grant funding for the project. And he did indicate that the entire pot of money was $10 million. So if you look at that, it was probably some 8% of monies that were going nationwide, and he was able to get that as a first piece. So I want to thank him for that, and we will continue to look for additional grant funding opportunities for the project. So it's exciting times, I think, for us, and I'm looking forward to that project moving forward. So at this time, Councilmember Klein?
Nothing.
Vice Mayor Rhino?
Mr. Wells, do you have an update on the landscaping median project for Aristocrat and Malik?
They're still finishing up the design. Is not ready to go to bid yet. It's getting closer.
Or getting closer? Tomorrow night, concerts in the park at Whitmore Park at 7 p.m. And my monthly office hours are going to be suspended for the remainder of the summer.
Okay. Councilmember Drossett?
Nothing.
Councilmember Condit?
Yes, my office hours for this Saturday, June 29th, will be canceled. My office hours will reconvene on Saturday, July 6th.
Okay. Ms. Dean? Tom? Mr. Wells?
Mr. Mayor, you stole most of my thunder with the harder information, but the other thing just to mention on that surface water project, that we have received other grant money is a $30 million that Flora was able to secure for us through Prop 68, as well as an IRWM grant of over $5 million. So we've crossed the $36 million mark in terms of funding for that project that is grant funded. So that's significant, and we continue to push on every door possible to try to secure other funding to reduce that impact on our ratepayers, and we're hopeful that our efforts with the governor's office and others that should yield some fruit, we're hoping, in the very near future.
Okay. Mr. Westbrook? Mr. Padilla?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know and the public know that construction has started on our service road overlay project from Central Avenue to Morgan Road. So we hope to complete that project before school gets back in session. So avoid the area if you can.
Mr. Crane?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that we're finalizing our details for the 4th of July operation, and that's going to start kicking off between police and fire next week. So we're just doing some last-minute staffing on that and getting us ready to go.
Thank you. I've gotten a lot of feedback on that. It seems to be positive. Mr. Wise?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. Next week is the Safe and Surrender, so that starts Monday, the 1st through the 3rd, and that'll be at our downtown station. So if you have illegal fireworks and you'd like to turn them in, that's our Safe and Surrender days for our program. Also, last week we put up a banner at Whitmore and Mitchell. It unfortunately is not working out too well. The wind really did a number on it, so we asked Public Works to take it down. We'll try to put it out in front of the fire station, and we'll come up with a different banner that's more weighted next year and will be more effective. I'm very excited to announce for the first time, and I know the 20 years I've been an EMT, we're actually, July 1st, we're broadening our EMT scope of practices, which many of you know that a lot of what we do is EMS. So now we're going to be able to do advanced airways, and we're also going to be able to administer epinephrine.
Thank you. Matt? Jeremy? I saw Bettina hiding back there. Anything? No? Okay. And Steve is gone. So, all right, with that, we will move to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be Monday, July 8th at 6 p.m. Thank you.